but she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation.
Okay, this might be the most awkward thing I've ever done. This is the initial View from the Pew, the podcast. I've got here Brandon Klein. Brandon, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going good, Chris.
Yes, and you're probably wondering what the heck's going on. It's been kind of eventful past couple days for me. If you follow me on Facebook, I announced I accepted a new position. So anytime you do that, there's some more, there's a lot of Facebook people's, commenting everything else. And tomorrow morning, we're going to drop this on Facebook, and nobody knows we're doing it. So this is very awkward. So real quick, this is a podcast project we started. We're going to see what happens. And just all I got to say is be kind. We're going to drop this on the internet. We are not podcasters. This is something we're trying out. So, Brandon Klein, I used to work with him in Galleon. He's originally from the Columbus area. But I'm from Youngstown to Galleon, and from Galleon he's come to Columbus. And I'm Chris Pugh. Brandon, introduce yourself. How's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going good, Chris. Thanks for having me on this podcast.
Excellent. So, very much like Weezer, last week, and I'm showing my age. Brandon, I keep forgetting. How old are you?
26, I think.
Yes, and I just turned 44, so I'm very old. It's not good. So I'm showing my age because I'm all excited. John, a friend of ours, is also on the project. He cannot make it tonight. So I got all excited because last week I got on Twitter, and on the trending topics, Weezer was at the top. And Weezer is a band that was popular when I was in college. They put out a lot of good albums since then. I'm like, what the heck? Why are they on trending topics in Columbus? What's happened? Somebody die or anything? They dropped the album out of the air. Usually in marketing, you do a lot of planning. You go on talk shows to promote your album. They did it out of thin air. Brandon, have you ever seen a band do that before?
Not really, but yeah, I mean, I just kind of came across it on Twitter as well, and when they dropped it, and just kind of people's reaction to their song selection. It was kind of interesting to see on Twitter.
Brandon's a reporter for the Daily Reporter in Columbus, and from working with me and with the Daily Reporter, we always promote our stuff. I mean, we got our stories on Twitter. If you follow me on social media, you see way too many stories on Twitter and everything. We're over promotion. Do you think this type of marketing works, Brandon?
It seemed to work for Weezer. I think that's mostly because they have name recognition. They have, also they're doing songs that everyone knows and loves, so that would help as well. Yes,
definitely. And okay, you're 26, so this is one of the reasons why I'm really glad that you're on with us. John, the guy that is also going to be on our podcast, is he's my age, so it's good to have some different type of ages on there. When we're going to listen to some of the songs, but a lot of music from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. As a 26-year-old, are you into that at all? Did that do anything for you? Did you wish Weezer covered something that came out now? I mean, what was your reaction to all that stuff?
Well, I'm a little biased. I mean, I kind of everyone, as far as Africa goes, actually, Africa is a popular song for supporters of the Columbus Crew sports team. Not sure what the origin is on that. It sounds like it was a song that kept playing at one of the supporters' favorite bars. I only started following the team in 2016, but man, they love playing that song all the time. They played it even after a game last season. And on their Facebook group pages, they'll post variation songs and so forth. So I guess I think there was always kind of saying, oh, it'd be cool if Weezer did a cover of Africa. So at least I feel like there was someone at one point said that. So
yeah, from what I understood, they got a tweet one day saying, hey, you should cover Toto Africa. It's weird. I mean, if you're a lead singer of a rock band, I'm sure you get tweets like that all the time. I'm not sure the backstory why Weezer said, okay, let's do Toto Africa and not Van Halen or, any other type of song. But it was kind of a, intriguing story about how they did that.
Yeah. And, I mean, it sounded, now this is my one criticism of like the whole album. And it's just like, and maybe it's just me and cover songs. Maybe I don't get it, but I don't really feel like they pushed the envelope at all. With the songs, it just sounded like, it was just like a high school band or even a concert band or your garage band. They just got the music and did it, just played it and performed it, used their own sound, but didn't really make it their own. I mean, that might be my only criticism with the album. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. I like Weezer, so sometimes when I like a band, they could play crap, and I'm like, great, that sounds wonderful. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's interesting. John and I were talking. There's another band we like, and obviously you've heard of the Foo Fighters before. I'm kind of intrigued with the Foo Fighters because for me, their songs I don't like as much. But when you go on YouTube, there's all kinds of covers they've done. Like they've done songs with Paul McCartney, they've done songs with Queen, they've done songs with other people. And I really enjoy that part of it. And I think part of it is like Dave Grohl, he kind of, to use your phrase, pushes the envelope with it. And I kind of agree with you. I mean, I like Weezer, and they could sing the phone book, I'd be cool with it. But it seems like in terms of covers, maybe like a Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl kind of pushes the envelope more than Weezer does.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard other covers that are, kind of played on the radio today, like another Michael Jackson song, "Smooth Criminal." It's like there's this rock group, I can't remember the name, but they play a variation on it. It's always played on our local rock station here in Columbus, Ohio. And man, it's like, I think it's a different song in some ways, but with
yeah, Alien Ant Farm, right?
Huh?
Alien Ant Farm.
Probably that. Yeah. Sounds
man, I gotta pull that up too. We'll have to give that a quick listen. All right. Well, so before we get too far, let's do a little review. I've got a couple of songs put up, and by all means, let's kind of talk our way through them. First song I see here is the old "Stand By Me." We're just gonna go for the Teal album real quick. Yeah, this sounds so much like the original.
I mean, yeah, that's like, if I wasn't really paying attention, I know who's singing it, like.
Yeah, that really didn't excite me. Now, personally for me, and oh boy, let me get by this YouTube ad here, but this song kind of got me a little bit more because I like the Eurythmics. I'm 44. I'm looking at Brandon's face, and he's like, "Oh my god!"
No, this is my dad's song here.
Yes.
He always play this on road trips, and this again sounds very similar.
Yes.
Memory.
And again, maybe I kind of like the song. I mean, it's not my favorite song of all time. But again, it sounds, Brandon's right. It sounds exactly the same. Now, this was interesting, and I want to be careful. I want to keep this show PG. I heard this in college. TLC, No Scrubs.
Oh yes, I really want to talk about this one here.
Okay, what's your take?
All right. First off, this is the one song that got a lot of attention for on Twitter, and I think what the surprising thing is, I'll give them this compliment. They did pick a song that invites gender bending, and I don't necessarily think they changed any of the lyrics. And yet, they can play off this. They make it work, I mean, it sounds like this song. It does sound like their own, only because it's just like it's a boy band that's singing the song, and which originally was sung by a trio girl group like TLC.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw a tweet from, and I'm not up on my TLC singers, but
Me either.
yeah, one of the TLC singers was all excited, saying, "Boy, we should all sing this together. This should be really great." And I agree with you. I mean, it sounds different because obviously it's a guy group singing a song by girls. I don't know. I was kind of a little bit more into that. Now this song kind of predates me, and again, I'm getting a YouTube ad, so we're giving Grasshopper a free ad here. It'd be great. This is the old Ozzy Osbourne song, Paranoid, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Now, does it sound familiar to the original?
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. Yeah, it's... Boy, you're bursting my bubble, Weezer. Now I'm going to start hating Weezer. This isn't good.
No. I mean, like, if you like Weezer and you like these songs, maybe it's like if this was like your dream, it was satisfied. I don't know if anyone who was dreaming of wanting them to sing No Scrubs, but, you know, if there's one person out there, their wish was granted.
Yeah, now I've got Happy Together. And again, this kind of predates me a little bit, but from my memory of that song, this sounds very similar.
Yeah.
No, they got a little bit more of a rock beat to it. I mean, I'm kind of down with this.
Yeah, this is like not a bad album in the sense, like, if you want something to, like, just listen to and you're not looking for something like heavy on the ears or something to make you think about life deeply. It's like sweets for you.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. It's kind of funny. Music has definitely changed to the point where they dropped this on YouTube. I'm assuming this is on Spotify, right?
Yeah, this is streaming on Spotify if you have a subscription or.
Well, and it used to be, and again, I'm going to sound like the get off my lawn guy, but a while back, when bands put out albums, the only way they could put out an album is on CD or 20 years before that, just on record or 8-track or whatever else. And it's funny to see how bands now can release stuff whenever they want to. And it's got to be really cool in a way. I kind of wonder, and that's what I'd love as this thing continues, maybe have some bands on, either local or national, to kind of talk about how the money works. I mean, Weezer's coming off a new album. I think it's next week. So that's probably more of their money-making type thing. But how much money do you think Weezer's going to see off this project?
Oh, man, I'm just going to speak to the whole. That's just another footnote in the story of where the music industry is at with the digital age. I mean, as well as I do how the digital digital age has affected our industry in the newspaper business. I mean, it's also affecting the music industry as well. I mean, I think really that's where bands like Weezer, they make their money in the concerts now. But heck, and they're a bit older, so really, the singers and bands that are making money now are the more contemporary ones, I would imagine. Like Taylor Swift had a big concert here in Columbus not too long ago, and I mean, I'm sure those tickets were not cheap at all. So, but that's how they make their money, I think, really these days now.
Yeah, and they're known well enough where people like me will like their stuff no matter what. But then on the other hand, like right now, we're throwing together a half-hour podcast. We're going to do this for an hour a week at tops, and we're just throwing junk against the wall, and we'll see what happens. We're learning and everything else. But the thing is there's no expectation we're going to make money off this. And I'm even to put together what Weezer did. I mean, I agree with you. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but I'm sure it took them more than a half hour to put this stuff together. Maybe it didn't,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of thought and care put into this production. I'm sure they had a lot of fun with it. As you point out, one of the TLC girls was loving that they used their song, and maybe, who knows, we'll see a collaboration. Heck, we might see them, go on, perform on talk shows and so forth later. You know, I mean, maybe that's the way to go about things, is get noticed on social media. You know, and also one other thing that helps this album out is nostalgia. Nostalgia sells.
Yeah. So maybe it's one of those things where they're not going to make, you know, a ton. I mean, they make a ton of Spotify plays right away. But, you know, if it gets a tour with one of these bands on the road or anything else, or if nothing else, to get you on the, you know, get you in the news again. We were talking a church youth group, not youth group, a small group last night. There was a story. Who was the actress? Yeah, Kate Hudson. You know, she talked about how she was going to raise her baby genderless. And there was some kind of questions, just kind of like, well, what does that mean? What does that take? What does that look like? Is it silly? Does it make sense? Is it moral, legal, whatever else the case might be? And, you know, after we talked about it for 5 minutes, everyone was like, I wonder what this is. I was kind of thinking, man, we did just what she wanted to do. You know, I mean, maybe she wants to raise it like that, and that's fine. But it got her in the news. You know what I mean? Where people were talking about Kate Hudson that haven't been talking about Kate Hudson for a while.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a kind of a different angle in the sense of, you know, is it really Kate Hudson wanting people to know how she's raising her child, or does she, you know, did she like, I don't mind if people are talking about me, it can't hurt on this thing.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're talking about gender or, you know, whatever the case might be. You know, it's kind of like, you know, how to get your name out there. So it's kind of interesting. Well, real quick, because we need to talk about something else too. Okay, Mr. Blue Sky. Now,
Grasshopper's a great virtual phone system.
Oh man, they like Weezer likes doing Grasshopper ads.
Yes,
that's where they're getting their money. I wonder if YouTube's paying them now, or is it?
Yeah, this is where Weezer's making some money. So, Mr. Blue Sky, I have never heard this song. What is it? Do you know this?
Yeah, this song's always like a cliche go-to in movies.
Really?
I can't really think of one off the top of my head. But yeah, like, you know, the protagonist is finding his stride, getting go lucky, and, you know, they play the song in background with a montage. And of course, seeing this, it sounds very much similar to the original.
And somebody watching this is probably screaming this, so I'm looking it up. According to YouTube, Electric Light Orchestra did the original Mr. Blue Sky. So it sounds. I mean, I haven't really heard the song before. Is it kind of like the old ELO song?
I don't think so.
A little more of a beat to it, right?
Oh yeah, it's a little more upbeat. Probably like a little higher pitch and octave. Yeah.
Okay, not bad. All right, so we'll give that one a pass. Yeah, let's do one other one. I was listening to this before, and Billie Jean was always an interesting song. We'll see what we think about this one. Longest intro ever.
Yeah.
She was more like the beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one.
Doesn't sound bad. I mean, Michael Jackson has a very hard to emulate voice, so it'd be kind of
that might actually be not a bad thing because, you know, again, it kind of makes the song a little bit of their own. I mean, in this case, they're still kind of trying to emulate the Michael Jackson, who's found some bad press lately with that latest Sundance film that was showed not too long ago about his alleged child sex abuse.
yeah, yeah, very, very
there.
Well, and I think still with everything he's done, I mean, it's kind of music. I mean, obviously, people don't want to really touch his personal life or give a lot of support to that. But yeah, a lot of fans and support of his music. So, all right. So I guess we have a little mixed reviews on Weezer. I mean, not a total train wreck, but I don't know. I mean,
not bad, but nothing. Nothing contributing to the to the bigger narrative of where the music industry is going, I guess. But except I would love to see more bands do some gender bending. I mean, I don't know, like pick any male singer sing Britney Spears songs or something.
There was, and I'll have to find it. I can't think of what it was. Britney Spears' "Toxic." There was kind of a alternative thrash band that did a weird mix of "Toxic" with Britney Spears. It was kind of interesting. I think you'd probably like that if you're looking for that. They just kind of did their own cover of it, but they did it hard. It sounded very different than Britney's old song.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a lot of different bands that are like take pop songs and make them sound more rock or whatnot. Daft Goes Punk and that kind of thing. Or Pop Goes Punk or something like that. Those kind of albums. So those are always fun to see. Those kind of genre, or I guess I should say, genre switching kind of music experiments.
Well, very quick before we move on to our last topic. The 44-year-olds that know me are probably screaming because Brandon was talking about the cover of "Smooth Criminal," and that's one song that I remember pretty well. So let me play about just a little bit of that. Alien Ant Farm, and there's a commercial, not for Grasshopper.
No, not for Grasshopper. Okay.
There we go.
Yep, there.
I agree with you. I like this one because they kind of put their own mix to it and something that sounds very different than the original.
And I actually, "Smooth Criminal" was really my favorite song from Michael Jackson because I remember I had his Moonwalker VHS set and would watch that movie, basically a long music video. That kind of just where Michael could turn into a car, into a robot, and he did a little dance thing during that movie. So,
yeah, it was really interesting. I liked that song when it came out. The thing that kind of ruined me about it was my wife got me real nice tickets to Pittsburgh Penguins game. And we were tired. We drove, Pittsburgh's a ways away from Ohio. We drove late to get there. And they played Alien Ant Farm, probably 50 times louder than it should be. And I'm not old. I don't mind loud music, but it was very loud. I mean, it was like, at the time, the Penguins were terrible, so nobody was at the game. And during the intro, you just couldn't hear yourself think. It was that loud. And
oh, wow.
I've listened to loud music before. But Alien Ant Farm was pretty good. There was a story. Did they get in a bus crash that ruined their career or something?
I don't know.
Hey, man, when John gets back, we're going to have some podcasts just talking about old music history because they were really popular for a while. And I think they got in a crash or something that kind of derailed their career. It was kind of interesting. So, all right. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to have like a page we'll send out. We'll host a podcast on my blog, and then we'll have a page of links. So all this stuff that we're talking about, I'll put some links on there so you guys can read and follow along too. Other story, and did you get a chance to take a look at the Seinfeld deal?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so there's a story. I'm going to pull it up because it's been a long day and trying to make sure I know what's going on with it. Obviously we're going for a Me Too time right now, and there's definitely a lot of good things that have come out of it. I mean, you can't treat women in bad ways, and there's been a lot of really junky behavior that's happened in the past. I don't want to blame anybody because some of the stuff is still alleged. But, people who mistreat women, that's not good, especially if you're in a powerful position. So, I mean, some people out there would say Me Too is full of crap. I don't think it's the case. I think there's value to the Me Too era. The funny thing that came out was Baby It's Cold Outside, which was a song, what was it written, in the 50s maybe? And, it sounded cute back then, and everyone sang it was all these old Christmas movies. And now, people say it's the rape culture and everything else. and I don't think the guy who wrote that wanted to rape women, but people have got to be mindful of that stuff. I mean, it's something that you can't ignore or anything else like that. So, I mean, what's your take, Brandon, on stuff like "Baby It's Cold Outside"? I mean, was that written from a bad perspective? I mean, what do you think about stuff like that?
Well, I mean, for me, "Baby It's Cold Outside." I mean, before, like, I remember when that song came on, and got to really listen to it one time in the radio with a friend, and he didn't like the song because he's like, "Oh, they just about these two people who want to have sex." And he's very kind of conservative, kind of Christian guy. So, and I just said, "Oh, it sounds, sounds like a nice little song. Just sounds like there's like some tension there and some, and I mean, it depends on a person's reading, really. Do they, it's just, I could see how some people could perceive it as, does the woman really want to leave, or is she just being coy, And I think those are two competing readings, and I think it's up to a radio station or an individual to decide whether they want to listen to it or not, or play it, I like the song. I don't necessarily think it's rapey, I guess, for lack of a better word. But, if someone feels that way, I mean, it's, they have the power not to listen to it, I think.
Definitely. And it's interesting because, like, "Baby It's Cold Outside," it wasn't, and again, I wasn't alive in the 50s, so I don't know. So if you're watching this and you're like, "Oh my goodness, it was a great comedy," I don't know. I mean, I don't think "Baby It's Cold Outside" was really a comedy song. I think it was just kind of a cute love song. I'll do quotes that, was just a love song back then. It was popular, right? I mean, I don't think it was comedy, was it?
There was also like a film scene that had like the song in there, yeah, and I think that also might have added to the reading of how the song's perceived. But and I didn't see the film, so I can't really speak to that. So yeah, it's yeah, I just really say it's just up to the individual, I guess.
Right, and the reason why I bring that all up, and you're probably holding your head because and not just Brandon, but our viewers, because I worked for a USA Today network for a long time, and we had 2 or 3 weeks where we were doing nothing but "Baby It's Cold Outside" stories, because there was a lot of interesting debate and controversy on both sides. People were clicking, and that helped us do some more stuff about it. So it's funny. So I mean, that story's there. It's gone now because the holidays are over and we're not listening to holiday music as much anymore. But I found this story, and you'll quickly find out about me. If I like something like Weezer or whatever else it might be, I want to defend it. Well, I like Weezer. I'm not a big Weezer apologist, but one of the greatest shows of all time was Seinfeld, in my opinion. And Seinfeld, I mean, I watch a lot of old Seinfeld reruns. I'll laugh. It's great and everything else. So people shouldn't rip on Seinfeld. So I got the story here, and the one I'm looking at is from DailyWire.com. And it's talking about, I guess a while back, people started to get ticked off at Friends because they thought Friends was getting very, sexist and everything else. And now they're coming after Seinfeld based on some of the story topics and other stuff like that. And to me, especially once you go into comedy, I kind of find that crazy. Comedy, in my opinion, now, obviously, as a Christian, I'm careful about what I want to watch in comedy. That doesn't make everything okay. There's stuff that I don't really feel like I should be watching for whatever reason. But comedy as a whole is supposed to satirize, mock everything else. Comedy needs to be something that's, whoa, I can't believe he said that. I don't see that in Seinfeld. I mean, Brandon, you're 26. You probably don't share my love for Seinfeld, but what are you seeing when you read that story?
Oh, it's funny you say that, Chris. I remember I actually really didn't get to see many Seinfeld episodes. I didn't really, as I grew up, I didn't really get the format where Seinfeld would do a stand-up routine, and then we go into this, the show itself, and I didn't really get that format. I think the only episode I remember is Kramer's had this real addiction to heating his clothes in an oven or something like that. That's about all I can remember from my Seinfeld watching experience. Yeah. You know, there is this one episode in Seinfeld that people talk about, though, and I only know of it through reading it, is just like Seinfeld's dating a Native American woman, and he's making offensive jokes about her. Or not, Indian giver, I guess, is like what he might have called her at one point. I'm not 100% on that, but basically that's kind of the gist of it. It's like some of those kind of insensitivity to her being a Native American. But this, and I could cite this Wall Street Journal poll, like I would looked up, like where 55% of Americans, or 52, I think it was like 52 to 55%, don't like the country becoming more politically correct. That being said, the 18 to 29 age range was in favor of it, of the country becoming more politically correct. So that doesn't seem to bode well for Seinfeld's future, I guess you could say, in the long run, as a show, the show, I mean, at the least.
Well, and, not just Seinfeld, my other one scene in terms of comedy is The Office. And they always talk about The Office rebooting, and Steve Carell on Saturday Night Live a couple months ago teased the fact it might be coming back. They pulled the rug out, and I got mad, and I almost cried that night because I want The Office to come back so bad. But one of the things Carell said that he doesn't want to do The Office anymore is, they had some jokes that were funny, but, if you ever try it in a Office concept, you probably get fired. I mean, yelling, "That's what she said," and some of the stuff that made The Office made didn't work. But see, I look at it, and I look at stuff like that as escapism. I mean, like there's some drama I like and some serious comedy and stuff like that. But I don't want to see This Is Us. When we get done with this, I want to watch something funny that makes me laugh. And I understand not everybody's like that, but if we can't joke around about things, I just don't know what comedy is. There's comedians, and I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a Jewish comedian that would make fun of the Holocaust back in the 50s. And it was like crazy because it's like, why would you ever make fun of that? 7 million of your own people were murdered in the horrific type ways. But he found that as comedy to kind of come to grips with what happened, and it's a hard thing to do. And I think you raise a good point. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. I mean, but the thing that disturbs me sometimes is in our culture, we have to be careful about how we treat other people and other things like that. But are we not giving comedians the chance of being funny at all? I don't know.
Well, and I was thinking about, was there anything similar to this issue? I remember when Looney Tunes, back in the day, they have episodes which had racist caricatures, like the Sylvester the Cat's. He was originally owned by a caricature of an African American woman that was really racist, and those episodes still are around, in DVDs or whatnot, with Whoopi Goldberg probably giving a little prologue saying this is why we keep them preserved, is to not forget, that this has happened in American history. But Looney Tunes, of course, as we know, was still kind of continued on. It's more sanitized and still resonated with audiences, at least until like the early aughts. Heck, they're doing a Space Jam sequel. Last I heard, with LeBron now. So, I mean, did they? I think there is, so maybe there is sometimes a need to kind of do a little sanitation. I mean, I know there is a concern. There are some concerns on that. On the other end, like, would Seinfeld be created today? Probably not in its current iteration, or maybe they would be more careful of what jokes they would employ. In fact, even like what you mentioned, Friends earlier, which is more my show growing up. And which is funny, I think the article you shared with me, Chris, was about people were saying had some homophobic jokes or whatnot, even though they had like a gay wedding in in the early seasons with Ross's ex-wife. So that was just kind of breakthrough, I think, for that community. But I'm surprised people haven't have said that How I Met Your Mother is, tainted because of the Me Too movement. With Barney Stinson, just the way he pursues women like they're very much objects. I'm surprised that we haven't seen that kind of conversation. Maybe people are still upset with the finale.
Well, and I think it's weird too. I mean, coming from the church community myself, there's a lot of times when there's stuff out there that the church riles up against. It might be something that is critical of Christianity, or it might be something that's offensive in whatever way. Some people who don't like. I think I've talked to some church people that were offended about Friends having a gay wedding. They're like, "Oh, that's horrible," and everything else. But especially today, there's hundreds of cable channels. There's a bunch of streaming channels. Netflix has new shows every day. Is there a thought of, instead of everyone being offended at everything for whatever reason, is it too liberal? Is it too conservative? Is it too whatever? It's just saying, look, you can speak out if you don't think it's good, but don't try to get, there's a chance for you to say, hey, I want to ignore it. You know what I mean? Where, sometimes the more credit you give to stuff, you give it more popularity. I wrote a column for USA Today Network. It was, what was the, Josh Gad was in the movie.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. I mean, he was in Beauty and the Beast. And there were Christians out there that felt that the character he played was a gay character. And they said, boy, how dare they do that to a children's movie? And no matter what side you come on, and this is a discussion about that, the thought I had was, if you're offended by it, okay, that's fine. You can have a stance. I'm not saying you shouldn't or you should or whatever. But the thing is if you, by screaming about something, you're giving that a lot more publicity that would actually help it. So if you're offended by Josh Gad, if you're offended by, Native American jokes in Seinfeld or anything else, just ignore it. Is that better than just freaking out about stuff?
Well, I mean, like, if you enjoy Seinfeld, you enjoy Seinfeld. If you don't watch it. I don't even think I would love to kind of like watch it actually and sit down and watch some episodes. But I don't think they stream it on Netflix. So, they do have Jerry Seinfeld's latest Netflix special on there, and I did watch that. It was not bad, I recommend it. If you have Netflix, go watch it. That's the kind of the funny thing, Mr. Jerry Seinfeld can kind of be separated from that show. The show's kind of now tainted, but he's now still able to move on with his career. And, we're having kind of going, back with Baby It's Cold Outside. I mean, think about R. Kelly, who's accused of alleged sexual misconduct. And now people are wondering, hey, should we defend the music? Should we not play the music? These are the kind of debates we're having in today's society. And I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah. And if we're freedom of speech, you got to be careful. You can't promote everything. But in terms of freedom of speech, if we're going to be freedom of speech, there's going to be some stuff you don't like. I'll bring up, and we need to wrap up to a close, but a topic we could talk about for the next 10 hours if we had the time. Covington Catholic, the high school kids that were, on one side, and there was a black, supporter group, and there was a Native American group. As I worked for USA Today Network, we heavily covered that story. And it's funny because with that type of story, everyone overreacted, and obviously, with the new videos, the high school kids didn't seem to be doing what everyone thought they were doing at the beginning. But my takeaway from it is not to blame the high school kids or the Native American group or the African American group or whatever. My takeaway is we're just always so ticked off at each other. We're playing this outrage game where it's every week. What are we going to get ticked off about? Last week it was the Covington Catholic kids. What's it about this week? You know what I mean? Is it Seinfeld? Is it whatever else? And I think it kind of just it hurts our culture, to be honest with you, no matter what the argument is.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, like, when can we just get to a point where we just ignore it? It reminds me shortly after the Charlottesville attack, or brawl, whatever you want to call it, where someone I think a video was started to be shared around. This was more in response to the president's comments afterwards, but really it was about this guy who was standing on like in the middle of town or something or near, and he was spouting out some populist rhetoric that was kind of probably racist or offensive, maybe anti-Semitic. And there was one guy that resonated with him, and his Jewish friend, I think, told him, like, no, this is the kind of rhetoric we heard in Nazi Germany. And then later the guy started spouting out another ethnic group he didn't like, and the guy was like, whoa, that's me. And so that turned him off. But the thing that I caught was that everyone started walking away. They didn't throw any rocks at him. They didn't punch him. They didn't call him names. They didn't get into his face or bam the drum. They just walked away. And that is really the hardest thing to do today in America, maybe. Just by looking at it, is rather than getting in someone's face, you just walk away. Because if you're in their face, you're only you're antagonizing, but ultimately you're giving them more power. You're saying what you're saying is something very offensive, but it's also something provocative. It's making me want to have a reaction to you. But if you don't give them a reaction, then maybe what you're saying isn't worthwhile.
Well, I want to approach on this topic very lightly. Brandon and I are journalists. We're not going to take political opinions. We can't because of our thing. But let me mention the T word, Donald Trump, real quick. As journalists, there's been talk about enemy of the people and everything else. And, I think the big difference is a lot of people look at journalism just as CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. Brandon and I, we work more for traditional outlets where, sometimes our opinions do get in the way if we're writing columns, but we're reporting the news, and we're not doing some of the things that sometimes the network people do as much. But the thing is, I get kind of depressed sometimes when I read Trump's tweets, not that I'm Republican, Democrat, or whatever, but, when he talks about, like he talked on, I think it was Sunday, a bunch of journalists lost their jobs last week, and he was kind of celebrating that fact because he called everybody fake news. And a lot of my journalist friends get upset, and they're like, oh, what a scum, how dare he do that? But even for something like that, as journalists we get upset about, is the thought more of, if it's Trump, if it's, it's like the bully in school. If you waste too much time thinking about them, you kind of give them more credit. So, whatever it is, if it's a show you might not like, if it's a group you're kind of not sure how to approach, I like your idea, walk away. And even if it's on Twitter, I love Twitter, but, don't let Twitter get on you, just, you can't, it's so easy to be on the outrage culture. We'll conclude this in a couple minutes. I bet you I could go on my Twitter timeline, get ticked off about something that I read in the next 5 minutes. But, do we want to live our lives that way? Probably not,
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's an interesting subject. Yeah.
And I'm bringing up these very weighty topics as we're getting near the end of our podcast. But so just to wrap up, this is kind of the stuff that we're talking about. This is a podcast project. We're going to expand as things continue. Are you into superhero movies, Brandon?
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't like superhero movies? Actually, I'm superhero fatigued at this point. Let's just end it. Can Endgame be the final movie?
Oh, right. But I guess what I'm saying is, with superhero movies, there's always the origin story. So, they have X-Men or whatever that case might be. But then X-Men 4 becomes the origin story. The reason why I bring it up is next week will be our origin story. So hopefully John will be back next week. We'll kind of share a little bit about who we are. We just kind of started gabbering about Weezer and, Me Too and all other good stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about that next week. We'll have ways to support the show. Again, this is a project. We're not going to get rich off this. We're not going to make a lot of money. Podcast is always something I wanted to do. I'll tell you a little bit about my new job next week. And, for the new job, I'm going to be handling a couple podcasts. I want to kind of learn more about that too. And want to kind of get Brandon up to speed too. So this is kind of a passion project for us. Be kind. I know it's probably not what you expected. It's not going to, may not keep your attention, whatever, but be kind. Have fun with it. Give us ideas, and we'll try to grow this as the weeks go on. But it was good just to hang out. Brandon, I know we don't get a chance to talk a ton, so this is a good way, if nothing else, for you and I to talk. But, we'll share this, and hopefully we'll get some more support. If you have any questions, email us. And anything you want to add before you conclude?
No, I just, again, thanks for the opportunity to have me on here, Chris. I think we had a good conversation tonight.
Yeah, it'll be good. We'll try to get John back. And like I said, we're open to guests. If you're on here and you're like, man, I know Chris or Brandon, I want to kind of take part, let us know. We'll try to figure out how to get you guys on. But for now, View from the Pew, the podcast, we're done for tonight. We plan on head back to you next Monday. Have a good night.
Have a good night.